Hello, hello, welcome back to another episode of I Know, a Solo Beatles videocast, where we talk all things Solo Beatles. Now, today is this very special day, as we have somebody who's making his first two big debuts in his Beatle podcasting world. You may know him as the newly-ish co-host of When They Was Fab, Electric Arguments About the Beatles, co-hosted with Ed Chen. I think this is the first Beatle podcast he's actually guesting on.
Yes.
And it's his first time making his debut on camera. So,
yes.
We are in for a treat. Welcome, Jon Stone.
Thank you. Please be gentle.
John, how's the weather down in Texas today?
Hot. Hot, very hot. Muggy. I'm in the East Texas part. We're kind of in a what should be here is a forest, but there are towns. So it's muggy and foresty.
So you're in the kind of the middle of nowhere.
Well, I'm between Dallas and Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay. We're kind of the halfway point. So if you're riding horses or taking a stagecoach, we'd be where you'd stop if you were on the way back then. So,
wow. So, yeah. I mean, John. First of all, I want to ask you, do you have a record store nearby?
Do I have a record store?
Yes.
Yes.
What was the last thing you acquired?
Last thing I acquired was a rare Sly and the Family Stone record. That I don't really buy my music that way much anymore. It's all online, and but they're just things that you can't find online, and I have a long habit of spending hours in a record store. So when I can find one, and this one is not too far away, I will go there just to flip through and see what's about. Now that I'm older, there are a lot of albums that I desired as a younger person that I never could afford, and now I can afford them. So my record collection is actually bigger than it should be.
How big is it?
Well, gosh, several thousand albums probably, and as many CDs. I'm pretty sure I gave my son's college education away buying music. So, he doesn't seem to have a problem with it though. So,
yeah, if that was me, that wouldn't be very good.
He is a big Beatle fan himself.
As he should be.
Yes, absolutely.
And John, did you buy the Uber box like your co-host?
No, I I have heard it, however.
I have.
And I really like it. Of course, I have several versions of the original box set, and both in vinyl and CDs. So my first thought was, do I need it really? Because I'm not that kind of collector. I'm not a completist. I'm not, it's always been about the music. And of course I had heard the music, so it wasn't a big thing for me. However, having heard it with the new, cleaner production, I really like it. It's much more easier listening. The wall of sound that Phil Spector created for that particular album has always weighed heavy on me. It's this thing that comes at you, and I remember when Let It Be came out, the story that was going around that was kind of funny was George Martin was approached. Is like, so how do you want the credits to read? since the question about who produced the record was about, and he said, "Well, I think it should read produced by George Martin, overproduced by Phil Spector."
Yeah,
And so that's kind of the way I felt about All Things Must Pass. It was
I
just,
agree.
it works on some things. I mean, My Sweet Lord, those acoustic guitars are just amazing. But there were just songs like Wah Wah, and some of the things were just, I can appreciate the song, but the production hasn't traveled well over time. But the new album, really takes care of a lot of that. Run of the Mill is just sublime for me. That's a great, with all the stuff taken off, and that song will come up again in our discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there's a song on George Harrison album that is very much like Run of the Mill.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't think we have any breaking news. McCartney won 3-2-1. I don't ever want to. McCartney 3 Imagined, not 3-2-1.
Right.
He uses numbers too much in the titles. What made number 1 on some chart? Did you see that?
Did it? Well,
Yeah.
It's a good piece of work. I had a friend who wrote me a very long email about why he didn't like it, and he just kind of went to town, and like McCartney had really let him down over the years. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I went back and listened to it with a critical ear, and I'm thinking, wow, way too tough on him, because there's a lot of really nice things on it. And the reimagined things are just, it's been a treat.
Yeah. I still haven't listened to it. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't buy 7,000 different color variations like I think your co-host did.
Well, again, and he and I have this conversation somewhat frequently, because it's almost as if McCartney is toying with those people. It's like, okay, so now I'm going to put it out in this color, and I'm going to change the symbol on the left-hand corner of, so that, I got to get that one. I got to get that one. So why would you want to have 35 copies of that? I don't know. It's I never have really been a Beatle collector. I mean, of course I have all the albums, but they're, I don't see getting things to buy so that you might sell them later on,
Exactly.
so that you put it in a corner and it stays unwrapped, and so that at some point you can pull it out and go, oh, look at this, but if you sell millions of copies of something, it isn't rare.
Right.
So if you really go, unless there's just something unique about a particular album, I mean, Abbey Road, how many millions of copies did it sell? It's just, they're out there.
Yeah, I mean, in Vermont, where there's like no record stores, not very much, but so,
Right.
But I mean, where most people live in civilization, there's an Abbey Road in every grandparent's attic.
Yeah, exactly. And I did go to the point where, of course, I bought all the albums as they came out as a kid, or acquired them anyway. The originals were my sister's, but I did go through and buy all the British copies when they came out, because there's a palpable difference between the two. So I bought them, and over the years listened to them. So now that the British versions are now kind of ingrained, so I do hear them as that. But I still sometimes find that if I hear a song, I might think that the next song is going to be the one that was on Beatles 6.
Yeah.
There wasn't a British equivalent of that. But when you grow up and you listen to these things over and over and over, and I did. I mean, I think I got to a point where my parents are like, maybe we should see someone about John.
Yeah. So I think we should move on into our topic to Harrison 79. So first of all, John, I mean, what was life like back in 1979? How old were you?
I was 25, I guess. And when we first discussed what we might talk about, you brought up this album, and I think I replied, well, it's not one of my favorites, but like all Harrison work, there's things on it that I like. But right at that point was the emergence of new wave, and that really interested me, so I heard that album based on that thing that was going on, because rock music had not been particularly interesting up to that point, and then all of a sudden this explosion kind of came out, and that was cool. And in that respect, the George Harrison album did not sit particularly well in that setting. That's where I was at. So, I of course bought the album and listened to it and thought, okay. There was one of the things I recall was being kind of off-put because the first song on the album, which is
Love Comes to Everyone.
Love Comes to Everyone, sounded to me, and still does, like a Todd Rundgren song.
It does.
And the chord changes and the production and everything. And I was getting into Todd at that point, and I thought, oh, what a rip. He just kind of took that style and did a song and didn't change the style much. So that's how the album opened up for me. It was like, okay, so now you have something to prove.
Yeah. And do you think it's grown on you over the years?
Well, yes and no. I think what happened is that, there's been lots of music, of course, and so I would listen to the album very occasionally, and it was your question initially that made me go, oh, I'll go back and listen to it, and it wears better than it did then, and of course I remembered that one of my favorite George Harrison songs is on this album, which is Love Is Forever.
One of mine too.
Beautiful, beautiful song, and the arrangement of it is just great. I was surprised to find that it was a complete instrumental first, and so the melody line that Harrison put over the top is just perfect. And so yeah, it's I guess my view of it on a re-listen with more mature ears and time makes the album sound better. It still strikes me as being influenced by other things. He puts a rejected Beatles song on the album, and that's not guilty. I'm sure probably people listening to this know that.
I would hope.
And then one of my favorite songs of his was Deep Blue. And there's a song on here that to me is like, well, it's the same song virtually. I mean, it's what is it called? Soft-hearted Hannah or something.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's the same beat. It's the same dobro sound. It's and so again that hit me at that time. That it was like, well, that's just a rewrite of that. What's another one? If You Believe struck me as being a rewrite of an earlier song of his called Don't Let Me Wait Too Long. Because it's the same strummy guitars with the same beat, so I guess at the time I just thought it's constructed out of these things that he's picking out.
Yeah, I can see your points, but I respectfully disagree. Which was the thing that I was hoping to do for this show, because I like to disagree with people. This was the first Harrison album, other than Extra Texture, that I actually listened to within full.
So Extra Texture was first?
Yes. And boy, did I not have high expectations of his solo career.
Right.
What I like Extra Texture now, but interestingly enough, the first song that really grabbed me on my first listen is what was I gonna say? Here Comes the Moon, which if you don't know, I'm a big Fleetwood Mac fan, and that is co-written by Stevie Nicks.
That's what?
That's co-written with Stevie Nicks and credited.
I had no idea. Well, that's interesting. That's just as an aside, I'll step in here and say that the band I was in the early '80s toured briefly with Christine McVie.
You toured with Christine McVie?
Yes. Yes. We
Christine,
opened for her. She was doing a solo album at the time.
The self-titled one?
Yes. And so we were the opening act in this little part of Texas.
If you have any idea how to contact her, let me know after we're done recording, because I really want to interview her.
Really? Well, I haven't really kept up with her. It wasn't like we were, anything other than while we're opening for her, and we met. We being an aspiring band, Center Flowers, and so she came over, and our dressing rooms were separated. She came over and thanked us and said hello, and she was very nice.
Yeah,
but I didn't get her really telephone number.
Yeah, probably doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I love. That was the first song that really just hopped out at me as being the best on the album. It's not the best for me anymore. Faster was an instant standout. Catchy. I don't know how Blow Away wasn't a #1 hit. I really don't.
Yeah, I think that that was the beginning of the video age, and there was just other things going on, I think, that were demanding attention. It's a great song. It's a interesting arrangement, but
I mean, McCartney had a top 10 hit with Goodnight Tonight.
Right. This is true. Although I think Goodnight Tonight actually played into the style of the day.
Fair enough. But I will say the music video for Blow Away is creepy. duck scares the heck out of me every time I look at it.
That's
It
funny.
looks like it should belong in like a really, like, you know, an old lady bathtub. That's what it looks like.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And as I said, it's a really good song and stands out in that it's weird. It's like it doesn't sound like anything else, and you think that's really kind of what should make it stand out, but it didn't stand out because it didn't sound like everything else. You know?
Yeah, Love Comes to Everyone should have also been a bigger hit. Everything on this album stands out. I think Dark Sweet Lady is a beautiful song, and that's a top 3 solo Harrison song for me.
Right.
Same with If You Believe is a great message. Everything is really perfect on this album. This is an impeccable album for me. And if you know, Brainwashed is my #1 Harrison record, followed by All Things Must Pass. But this and Material World are competing for the #3 spot.
I can see that. Brainwashed is a completely undervalued work. You know,
That's what you and your co-host are your co-host and I are talking about that tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's a really good album, and got no attention at all. Really, you know, kind of sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Harrison album just maybe just hit in the wrong space at that point. You know, timing is everything, and it wasn't disco, which was still going on at the time, and it wasn't edgy, which is what was happening in Britain. You know, I'm sure the punks thought George Harrison was one of the old farts, and you know, it just didn't get much attention either. You know, it's odd to me to look back that Blow Away, I mean, it was 1978, and I remember the video very well, but MTV was still 3 years away, and
Right.
so you know, I'm not even sure where I would have seen it. You know, what kind of shows it would pop up on.
Ethan.
Yeah. A disco punk.
That sounds like your dream. But there is, and I want to talk about the cover art because out of all, this is my only criticism of the album is the cover art. It looks blurry.
Yes.
And it's just, I thought it looks like he's like hiding in a green apple or something.
I always thought it was like a picture of what would I look like if you saw me when you were on LSD.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm still mulling over a disco punk album. That's a thought.
Yeah. So I want to also talk about this song. What was it called? Soft-Hearted Hannah. Why would you say that's a rewrite of Deep Blue? Just because of the melody and the chord changes?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's that beat. I mean, he did it again with the song just escaped me. Oh, Devil in the Deep Blue Sleep. It's that.
Oh yeah.
And it was that was really successful, I thought. But the fact that it's that same beat and the same dobro sound, and even some of his melody choices have the same intervals. And so it was just enough to make me feel like it was a rewrite. And I also have to remember at the time there was the acknowledgement and criticism that George had a tendency to rip people off, that he,
Yeah.
and so I listened to it with that in my head, and so that he was, only this time he was ripping himself off. I mean, I personally think Deep Blue is a much better song, but that's why I thought that was, because it sounds similar.
I can see that, but I mean, but I love the lyrics of it.
Right. Oh,
Like,
yeah, there are words.
Yeah, there are words. You ever heard of them?
Yeah. And they were printed too, I believe.
Yeah, we're on the sleeve.
Huh. Clever.
Like the lyric, this feels like a summer album. Like, if you're dropping, like, I don't listen to the album in winter. That's like winter is a Plastic Ono Band album. That's a winter album.
So you're saying you listen to the album seasonally?
Mostly. Like, are you 33 and a Third fan?
I like parts of it.
Oh, okay. I feel like this and 33 and a Third are sister albums.
Yes, I would agree with that. Because I even had to really stop and think which album Blow Away was on. I mean, it's like Blow Away and Cracker Box Palace, and I mean, there's a similarity or a definite sound, and so I couldn't remember exactly which one was on which album.
It's like the Ringo albums with the last 20 years. Well,
Yeah.
one has the Back Off Boogaloo redo.
Oh my gosh.
They're so bad.
Yeah. And the original record was interesting. It's not such an interesting song that you have to do it over and over,
Yeah, so let's talk When They Was Fab for a minute, then we'll get back into the album. So plug our one of my favorite Beatles podcasts, Poor Favor.
Oh, well, that's great. As I said, I don't know this world at all, and so I slipped into it accidentally, but it's been fun, and it's great, because what I am enjoying is seeing new generations of people who appreciate the band, because there's not a whole lot of people in my current life that you can kind of get in deep with the Beatles. You might talk about them, but nobody knows the details or even finds them interesting for the most part. One of my wife's favorite things is, how do you know that? Why do you know that?
It's like therapy, recording a Beatles podcast.
Yeah. I remember years ago seeing a cartoon where this guy's looking into a bookshop window where all the books are displayed, and the new book that they're pushing is Notes from John Lennon's Refrigerator.
Oh God.
And you think sometimes, it sometimes seems like it gets close to that, but it as I said, it's been a lot of fun seeing new interest in the band, which goes to prove their longevity, and it didn't all stop in April of 1970.
No.
Because their work continued to go. One of my favorite periods of time is the work he did with Elvis Costello.
Oh, great. Some
All
great
those
stuff.
all those songs are just it's really good work.
Except for Mistress
So,
and Maid. Ugh,
really, you don't like that one?
no.
One of the things that the comparisons I like is McCartney's version and Costello's version of "That Day Is Done," and it's just the two approaches are really unique, and it's interesting to see the way the two writers look at that melody.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, yeah, That Day Is Done is beautiful. And I mean, I know a friend, Ken Michaels, who raised that as his favorite Paul McCartney album. Just off your top of your head, what is your favorite McCartney record, John?
Off the top of my head, um, I'm thinking. Hold on. Favorite McCartney album.
It's like picking your favorite kids.
It really is, because there's, and it's not like he's stayed still. It's uh, one of the things that Costello said in an interview was that after the Beatles broke up, McCartney went through the mental exercise of, I'm not doing the Beatles anymore. I'm going to do this other thing. And so that he taught himself to write in a different way.
Yeah.
And Costello said, if you're not a songwriter, you don't realize how hard that is to change what you are or who you are to do something else, and I think now McCartney's kind of gone back to, well, I can be a Beatle, or I can have that mindset. But the fact that he, was actually trying to make a different sound makes his albums hard to go, well, I like that. Probably my favorite McCartney album would be All the Best. um, I still love McCartney. That album always sounds fresh to me. And I don't know, that might be my favorite. I don't know.
Interesting.
Even though it's a lie, in that, it's this idea of, well, Paul went to his house and he had this recording equipment, and he produced this album. Isn't it great? Oh, you find out, well, except that, maybe I'm amazed, and every night we're recorded at Abbey Road, and then he was at Morgan Studio. I mean, he did more of the studios than was let on. It sounded like he did it all at his house.
Right.
But
an interesting choice.
Well, and that's not saying I don't like a lot of other stuff. Even the albums that I'm not crazy about. I like Memory Almost Full.
Oh, love that. Except for that one terrible song, Gratitude. Oh.
Well, if you're trying to experiment, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I realized I like that one. And I like some of his outside of the box stuff. I appreciated the Fireman albums. He's fun when he tries to stretch.
He really is.
So, thumbs up for that.
Yeah, mine's Flaming Pie, hands down.
I don't know why I didn't think of that one, because that is really that's a really.
Back to the Egg is a very close number 2.
There's songs on that one I like, but I'm not crazy about that album. I'm not. Yeah.
Now this is going to be a perfect segue back to.
Oh, right.
are other things. Do you think that the reason you're not a fan of Back to the Egg and this album as a whole would be because of the time frame of life? You know, you were into the new wave stuff.
That could be. You know, what is that song? Get It On.
Spin It On.
Spin It On. Yeah, it was like he was trying to be relevant, and he didn't really need to be, because the songs I like from that album are not au courant. You know, I like Baby's Request, and I like Arrow Through Me, and there are a few more. The Rockestra stuff is kind of cool. And it shows you it made an impact. All these years later, maybe you cuts from it. But on the whole, it didn't do that much for me. I was much more a fan of, Band on the Run, of course, and
Yeah.
I got to see McCartney in the '76 tour.
You did not.
Oh man, let me tell you, that was an experience. It was in Houston, and
You saw Joe English in person before he went in his bunker.
Yeah, I think saw the whole thing. And the thing was, this was when festival seating was still legal and okay.
Yeah.
So this was the first time McCartney had toured since the Beatles, 10 years. And the people who wanted to get up front were enthusiastic. And so I happened, because I lived very close to the venue, I get there early. I got in. There were no seats, of course. I was in the second row. I mean, so when the concert began and the mist kind of rolled out, you could feel the cooling, the mist, the whole thing. And it was real close. Well, as the evening went on, more and more people are coming down and pushing in, to a point where at one point I completely lost my footing. I mean, the crowd was controlling kind of where I was. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, if you were to fall, if you could have, you couldn't, you couldn't push the crowd back. It was there. That was the most scared I've ever been in that kind of situation. It was just, but it was a great show. It was really, really good, being that close.
Yeah. Man, you are one lucky human being.
I was definitely a Beatle fanatic. Said when I bought, in fact, it was the first single I actually bought was Paperback Writer and Rain, and Paperback Writer was the hit, and everybody, I mean, it was cool, which is why I initially bought it. But then I flipped it over, and Rain just was like, it was trance-like, and then Revolver came out, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was, every song to be was brilliant, and it just went from there. I can remember waking up on Christmas morning in 1968, and my Santa Claus gift, he was kind enough to give me the White Album, and I spent seriously all day in the living room with the headphones on, listening to the White Album. And my dad came in. He's like, "Well, how is it?" And I was like, "It's brilliant, Dad." Brilliant. So, and
Yeah.
I guess I was 14 at that time.
Yeah. Your parents. Yeah. Yeah. Your parents were good to you that Christmas.
Yeah. Well, they understood, the next year I got a guitar. And so, they were good people in that regard. They encouraged that aspect, even though, as I said, I probably took it too far, because, I wasn't interested in much else.
So, moving on, I want to just talk about the musicians on this album. We have George Harrison, obviously, Neil Larson on the mini moog and piano. Steve Winwood does backing vocals, and the harmonium and the polymoog, whatever that is.
Who?
Steve Winwood.
Yeah, but what was the second one?
Neil Larson.
Oh, yeah. Then he had Willie Weeks and Andy Newmark. They were in the touring band.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wish Willie would come out into the public because I would love to talk to him about. Because man, Willie Weeks is a good bassist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very good. Very good. Who else was on that tour? Robin Ford was on that tour.
Yeah.
Second guitarist.
And Eric Clapton plays that intro guitar on Love Comes to Everyone.
Yeah, it's funny. What is it? I think Peter Frampton tells a story that Harrison asked him to drop by, and when he was recording All Things Must Pass, and asked him to play guitar on the song he was working on. And so Frampton came in and he was gonna, he was prepared to play the rhythm. And George is like, no, I'll play the rhythm. I want you to play lead. And so it was What Is Life?
Yeah.
And I thought there's a lot of instances where George is like, you do it. I mean, not you do it, but it was kind of like, I'm going to give you the spot that people think that, my ego would say I would take. And
like what he did with the Wilburys.
Yes. Who else could have put that band together with that kind of everybody throw into the pot, and the big egoless band. It's really good. That was a great project. I'm a big Wilburys fan.
Oh, me too. First or second album?
I like Volume 3.
Thank you. You are now my favorite guest that I've had, because you're the only other person that said that. And
really?
I'm really happy because that's my favorite too.
Yeah.
I am a big Dylan sucker.
Yes. And I've enjoyed, we have Sirius Radio in the car. There's Tom Petty station, which we listen to often. And it's great to hear Petty do Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
That's, yeah.
Another thing that I want to add is Looking for My Life was written during these sessions, interestingly enough, from Brainwashed.
Yeah, but it wasn't recorded, was it?
Maybe an early demo.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask Chip about that. Chip Madinger.
That's probably true of the way Harrison worked. He always had things that took a long time to develop. There's the famous conversation between John and George when John's songwriting advice was, try to finish it. When you go into it, try to finish it. And but I don't think George does that. I think he edits a lot and develops, and so it's not surprising that he wrote something. Because we're talking about this album, and what he tried to do a version of Circles.
Yeah.
This album, which eventually came out on Gontropo. And that was 10 years old, probably 15 years old by the time he actually recorded it.
Exactly. Yeah. There was a White Album demo, I'm pretty sure, of that too.
Right. Yes. A real basic kind of demo, and then Not Guilty, which is from that time. And so when you think that, one of the things that amazes me is that uh, The Art of Dying comes from 1966. I mean, that's a great song, really, really
Yeah.
good. And the fact that it was never attempted by the band is just floors me. That had the Beatles attempted that would have been one of the greats, I think, because you know McCartney playing bass on that would have been great, and it's just raucous enough for John to be enthusiastic, and um, that's a very very much missed opportunity. So
I agree.
he had stuff in his pocket probably all of his life.
Yeah, and I mean, if he wouldn't have died, I mean, who knows how much there really is.
Right. Well, Danny and Olivia have access to all that. Who knows what's back in the...
Yeah, come on, Danny, deliver a Uber box to my door, and we'll talk. So, John, I think we've wrapped it up.
Well, it's been a pleasure. It's been
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
So
I'm still thinking about disco punk.
Oh gosh. Don't give Ethan any ideas.
I'm thinking so disco would have that, that constant kick drum beat, real simplistic, and then the punk would just be screaming guitar, distorted out the max. I don't know. It's possible. We may be talking about the White Stripes at this point.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you would like to plug?
Well, listen up to all the podcasts. I met Kit the other day, and that was great. That was fun.
The queen of all Beatles media.
Yeah, right. And who knew? What I have in my Beatle collection. I've got tons of books and recordings and a stack of Beatle fans from way back. So, who knew?
Speaking of Beatle fan, I was actually mentioned in Beatle fan in the latest issue, and you were too. So congratulations!
Wow. Yeah. Yes. That's so. That's progress.
Yes.
Well, this has been lots of fun.
Yeah. So you can find us here, there, and everywhere. You want to email the show, I know podcast at iCloud.com. So, as I like to say, don't let me wait too long.